I was just scrolling through my Twitter timeline and I came across this post that was made by Mike Baggs, and shout out to him, where he posted up this clip, and I had no idea what the clip was going to be about. But I looked at the caption he wrote, and it says, "These people are not as naive as they claim to be, hashtag reparations now." So the thing that stood out to me, it definitely was the hashtag. So I assumed that the topic of reparations was going to be mentioned somewhere in this clip. And then when I played it, it indeed was, but it actually came from a standpoint of these individuals know exactly what's going on, but some of them are trying to be willfully ignorant or trying to pretend like they didn't know, but they really knew all along. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let the clip play. It's 54 seconds, and then I'll come back with my commentary.
Is the fact that Abraham Lincoln's killed on April 14th, 1865. He had this whole plan of like 40 acres and a mule or whatever to give land to all the free slaves, to all the freed slaves. He had this whole Reconstruction plan. And then when he's killed, Andrew Johnson, who probably wouldn't have even wanted to change slavery, comes in and says, no, fuck that. They had literally even apparently given some land out for a few days to some former slaves and then took it back from them and now did not give them the reparations, which, and this is where there's a fair argument, set up a cycle generationally of people who now had to go had to basically kill their own food, when there's other people in society who get to live off the continued passing down generational wealth of land.
Right.
I think there's a point to be had there for sure.
So that was the clip right there from the Julian Dory podcast. I'm gonna be honest with you, I never heard of this guy before. I had to actually look him up, and he basically just has like a regular standard podcast. He has different guests come on, and they talk about different topics and geopolitical stuff. And that was a take that came from, I'm not exactly sure when he actually did this podcast episode, but it had to be fairly recent, especially with the topic of reparations still going ever so, heavy every single day. And now it's gotten into the ether of the conversation of reparations, and now a lot of people are talking about it. I was even looking through the comment section, and people were saying it seemed like ever since Ann Coulter brought it up about reparations and even saying foundational Black Americans out of her mouth, now a lot of individuals are going back and they're starting to say, wait a minute, hold on, is there something there? What's going on? It's like, wow, it actually took Ann Coulter, of all people, Ann Coulter, to say foundational Black Americans and cash reparations, something that we've been saying for the last few years now. When we said it, it was a problem and being divisive and, oh, we're not going to get it. But then she says it, and now you want to go and do research and find out that y'all have been wrong this whole time. I thought that was very interesting. There's no slight against him, because I don't know how he gathered his research to find out the information for himself. But this is something that we've been saying for quite some time, and that's why under the post where Mike Baggs said these people are not as naive as they claim to be, he's basically saying how a lot of them sit there and claim like, oh, we don't know about this. Oh, how are you going to get it? If they cut the check, who's going to get it? What about people who aren't from here? And all, the usual questions, or the saying, oh, there needs to be a study. They know exactly what they're doing. They like to play dumb, and they have been for so long. So that was the take right there from this individual named Julian Dory. But as I was scrolling down in the post even more, someone even posted up a clip from none other than, unfortunately, Nick Fuentes, in which he talks about it in his own particular way. I'm just going to go ahead and let the clip play for you, and you can see for yourself what he has to say. Now, his clip is almost 2 minutes long, but I'm going to let it play out, and yeah, we'll go from there.
All of the culture war propaganda, it's bait. It's all fake. I'm watching videos by Daniel Schmidt and John Doyle. I'm watching videos by young white guys who think that our country is being run by black bureaucrats. Young white radicals who have been screwed out of a future. Their future has been mortgaged. They have been sold into debt slavery. There is no hope. You are a minority in your country. This is a country financed by debt. No one is deflating this global debt bubble. We are all going to pay the cost. And they have been tricked by billionaires into taking out their anger at black people. And it is true that black people are responsible for the criminality. It is true that Hispanics make up the bulk of the illegal immigrants. But they are not the planners and the managers of our society. And yet, young white radicals, all of their righteous indignation and anger is being channeled and directed at Democrats. It's being directed at bureaucrats in the federal government. Everything is being channeled as an attack against DEI, as an attack against some such policy like that. Don't look at the billionaires that are funding this. Don't look too closely at Musk and Thiel and Andreessen and Adelson. Don't look at those people. It's the black and brown bodies in the Department of Education. They're the problem. What?
So y'all just heard Nick Fuentes' take, and as you can see, his take on it is very, very different from what Julian Dory said, but they kind of come to the same kind of conclusion. But the way that Nick Fuentes, it's a lot to unpack, but we're going to unpack as much as we possibly can. One of the first things that got me with Nick Fuentes is him mentioning about young white guys being influenced by these billionaires and everything like that with the culture war and stuff like that. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, but Nick Fuentes, you put yourself in this position. All the people that you talk to, all the people that he hangs out with, all those spaces that he's in, he's always masqueraded himself around as this white dude. But remember when someone pulled up at his residence, what was it, back in December? And when he was talking to them cops, he said he was a Mexican. I was like, whoa, that was the first time I ever heard Nick Fuentes actually claim his Mexican heritage, because for the longest, he's always gone around parading himself as this white neo-Nazi style guy. Like, that's all he's ever paraded himself around to be, for as long as we've unfortunately had the displeasure of knowing of his existence and of his rhetoric. So for him to sit up there and try to distance himself from it, from the rhetoric, from the fray, like he wasn't part of it for so long, and also to act like that's not how he became prominent or how people came to know him, is very disingenuous on his part. But I don't expect anything more from him anyways, considering what we've known about him up to this point. The other thing that got me was when he was talking about, adding on to what I just said about people believing or thinking that the country is being ran by black bureaucrats or by black people. We keep telling people we live in a state of white supremacy, a system of global white systemic oppression. We don't run anything. We are just here, and we are often used as Harvey would call it, the whooping boy for other groups. Look at what Donald Trump just recently said when it came to that unfortunate tragedy with that plane and that Black Hawk helicopter at Reagan National Airport in DC. He immediately labeled it as DEI, and when they were asking him, does he have proof about it, and he said, well, I think I do. And then when someone asked him another question, he said, how do you know? He said, oh, it's just common sense. That was literally one of the most I'm whitest and I say so responses I've ever seen to something like that before. And especially because it's a tragedy, it made it very even more offensive. So they keep thinking that black people run everything and all types of stuff like that. Let me put it like this. People like Nick Fuentes, he can come on here and he can make this kind of explanation all that he wants. But the fact of the matter is people like him believed it. They believed the rhetoric because they wanted to believe it. They needed the clicks, they needed the views, they needed the engagement, they needed the money. And they did all four of those things and kept going. They never stopped. They never caught themselves. People like Nick Fuentes is well aware of what he's doing. So for him to sit up there and act like he's so naive, like Mike Back said in his post, make it seem like he doesn't know what's going on, and he's somehow just so oblivious, that's a load of crap on his part. It really is. Now, the last thing that really stuck out to me was when, and then he made sure to throw in the lie. He says, we know that black people are high in criminality. And then he went back and said, we know that Hispanic people are also high on criminality. What have I always told y'all? Whenever they want to do the black and brown thing, they always make sure that it's because of the quote unquote high criminal element, like they like to claim. And then that's when they decide to lump us in. But then when it's anything else, there's a line drawn in the sand. So Nick Fuentes got on here and basically made this video for, I guess, to self-grandize himself, I guess. Because in one note, he's talking about how these billionaires, the white billionaires, was putting in the minds of young white guys that black people were running the establishment. But then he's going to come back and lie and talk about how black people have a high criminal rate and that it's a fact. The same thing that he claims was being put in the heads of young white guys about black people or black bureaucrats running everything is the same thing that they've been putting in their head about black people in criminality rates being so high. Why do you think they always talk about Chicago or Baltimore or LA or Atlanta or any place where there's a black enclave? So on one hand, he's saying they were wrong for telling them and lying to them that black people ran everything when they don't. But on the flip side, he's going to say, oh, black people have a high criminal rate. The same people were telling you the same load of crap, and you believe, but he believes that part. That's the part that's factual to him, is black people being criminals. What else can I say? This is Nick Fuentes being Nick Fuentes. I can't even bring myself to be mad at him for saying that, because we know his shtick. This again is how he got up there, how he got the prominence, but it's also the same reason why he got kicked off and practically banned on social media. For the most part. And by the way, the video that y'all saw from him, that wasn't even posted by him on his page. It was posted by some other account. A lot of the times, if you ever see me do a video on Nick Fuentes and I post a video in there to talk about like this one, it's never coming from his page. It's usually coming from somewhere else, and it was probably shared somewhere down the line. I think he might have a Twitter account, and we all know why he's able to have one, because look at who runs it. But if Elon Musk was to sell this app like KG is predicting, which I hope comes true, a lot of people like him are probably going to be off that platform. So, there it is. But yeah, Nick Fuentes, this dude, we already know about him. Like, why cry over spoiled milk at the end of the day when it comes to someone like him? But yeah, going back to the original, topic, yeah, they know very much well aware of reparations and why it is definitely needed. And they know their heads have been filled with a bunch of lies, but they continue to go on with the lie because they love the lie. They are in lust with the lie about anti-blackness. That's why they keep going in on it. That's why they keep talking about it. That's why they keep, talking about it to get, again, views, engagement, clicks, money. They love it. And they're not going to stop. As long as there is a market for it, as long as they can get engagement from it, as long as they can make money off of it, they're going to continue to do it. And Nick Fuentes, he's not going to stop. I mean, you would think he would, considering the warnings he's received in the last couple of months, but he won't stop. He's not going to stop until he either wants to stop, which I don't see happening, or someone stops it for him, which again, he already had 2 warnings. And you know what they say about the third one.